If I can get all of the panelists to please turn on your audio and video. We are now recording and we are live on YouTube. Executive Director Mosley, you may now begin.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's virtual conference hosted by the Los Angeles County Sheriff Civilian Oversight Commission. My name is Charmaine Mosley, and I am the Executive Director of the Commission. Before we begin with tonight's conference, it is important to note that the Commission is looking at LASD's public complaint process and our own complaint process. Although this commission has existed for nearly 10 years, and we have some members who have been on this commission for that length of time, so they are knowledgeable on areas where improvements can be made. We have been listening to the public and LASD as to LASD's complaint process. It is a complicated process. In response to public feedback several months ago, the Commission established a new complaints ad hoc committee to explore ways to improve the LASD's complaint process and to develop ours as well. We are working with our IT department to develop a complaints database and electronic complaint form. People will be able to file complaints on their computer or phone. We will be able to compile data and track complaints received by our office. These are tools used to earmark effective civilian oversight of law enforcement. Effective civilian oversight of law enforcement must also include unfettered access to confidential information, which includes complaints. What I mentioned are recognized on a national level by the National Association for Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement, known as NACO, as essential for effective oversight of law enforcement, and also helps in identifying systemic issues and patterns within law enforcement agencies. Such oversight acts as a system of checks and balances, helping to provide a clear, fair, and thorough analysis of departmental practices. Ultimately, this commission serves as a vital bridge between the community and the Sheriff's Department. We are all looking forward to tonight's conference. Your moderator will be James Harris, who is a long-standing commissioner on the Sheriff Civilian Oversight Commission. Captain Ash from the San Dimas Station will also be presenting on LASD's complaint process. And now I'll turn it over to Commissioner Harris.
Thank you. And thank you again for joining us this evening. My name is JP Harris. I have been a member of the Sheriff's Civilian Oversight Commission since its inception in 2017. As Charmaine mentioned, we are here this evening to discuss LASD's complaint process. The Commission held a couple of meetings concerning the complaint process. We first held a joint meeting with the Probation Oversight Commission last summer, and then on March 27th, we hosted a community listening session in the Antelope Valley in response to several community members voicing their concerns on LASD's complaint process at our monthly commission meetings. This evening's virtual conference serves as a follow-up to that session in Lancaster and allows for the LASD to provide the public and the commission with an overview of LASD's public complaint process to help us understand how it works. Each year, LASD receives hundreds of complaints against sworn personnel. The Civilian Oversight Commission and the Office of the Inspector General receive some of those complaints. The Commission and the Office of the Inspector General do not investigate those complaints. However, they do turn them over to the LASD, which then classifies the nature of the complaint and how they will handle it. Because LASD also receives grievances from family members of those who are incarcerated or those who are incarcerated themselves, it is important to note that this mini conference is focused solely on the complaint process for members of the public. We will not delve into the inmate grievance process, although there might be overlap when referring to service complaints. You'll also learn tonight that not all complaints result in investigations. If the conduct complained about does not rise to the level of violation of policy or law, it is still handled formally, but as a review. The review ultimately results in a finding, but it is quite dissimilar from an investigation, which may result in a written reprimand, suspension, or even termination. We'll get insight from Captain Ashrafnia regarding what happens to a complaint after it is filed with the LASD. He will explain what the process looks like and what findings are made. He will also explain which LASD units may become involved in the review and/or investigation. We hope that tonight's session will help the community gain a clear picture of the complaint process. After the department's presentation, commissioners that are joining us will be able to ask questions. Then we will open up the question and answer period to community members for an opportunity to ask questions and provide feedback to the commission and the sheriff's department. Once our gathering of feedback is complete, our complaints ad hoc committee will review the information gathered at all of our meetings and look at areas that might benefit from improvements for the full commission's consideration and approval. So for community members who are joining us tonight, and to those who might watch the video of this meeting after, please know that your input is valuable and continues to drive the work of the commission. Therefore, we are requesting community feedback regarding LASD's complaint process. At the end of today's meeting, please scan the QR code and complete the survey. I am very interested, as are all the other commissioners, in hearing the questions from the public during the question and answer session. And now I'll turn it over to tonight's speaker. I invite you to introduce yourself, Captain, and give us any background you may wish. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Captain Walid Ashrafnia from the San Dimas Sheriff Station.
Captain Ash, if we can get you to turn on your audio, please.
Thank you, Mr. Harris and Ms. Mosley. Good evening, everyone. My name is Walid Ashrafnia, Captain with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. I will be presenting information on our current complaint process. To begin, when our community members file complaints, it provides us an opportunity to review concerns, correct problems, and improve how we serve the community. Just as importantly, commendations highlight the positive work our deputies are doing every day, often in difficult situations. Together, these processes strengthen transparency, build public trust, and support a culture of professionalism. They help us identify where we need to grow and also where we're getting it right. At the end of the day, this feedback, both critical and positive, is essential to maintaining a department that truly serves and reflects our community. Let's go to slide number 2. LASD's public complaint policy. The importance of LASD complaint process. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department complaint process is a vital mechanism for ensuring transparency, accountability, and public trust in law enforcement services we provide. This process empowers community members to report misconduct, voice concerns, and participate in the oversight of those sworn to protect and serve. Key reasons why the complaint process matters: accountability and oversight, public trust and confidence, protection of civil rights, improved training and policy reform, accessibility and fairness. Slide number 3, please. Who can file a complaint? Any member of the public can file a complaint. Anonymous complaints are always allowed. No need to be a U.S. citizen or resident to file a complaint. Complaints can be filed on behalf of someone else, which are called third-party complaints. Public complaints are documented using a Watch Commander Service complaint form, which is numbered and is tracked. Slide number 4, please. How to file a complaint. Complaints can be filed through a variety of channels. You can file a complaint online, through the LASD website, in person at any LASD station, unit, or bureau, via phone, call the LASD station, unit, or bureau, by mail, send a letter describing the incident. Email or fax are available upon request. External reporting options are also available. If a person reporting does not wish to submit a complaint directly to the department, complaints can also be submitted via the Office of Inspector General through their website. OIG is responsible for oversight of the department, including monitoring complaint handling. Complaints of serious misconduct can also be referred to the California Commission on Peace Officer Standards and Training, also known as POST. Slide number 5, please. Type of complaints. Type of complaints. There are 2 types of complaints: personnel and service. Personnel complaints include allegation of misconduct or improper behavior on the part of department members that violate the law or department policy. It includes such things as dishonesty, unreasonable force, improper tactics, unreasonable force, improper tactics, improper search or arrest, neglect of duty, discrimination, operations of vehicles, harassment, off-duty conduct, criminal conduct, or other things that are not listed here. The other type of complaint is called a service complaint, which includes dissatisfaction with the department's service, policy, procedure, or practice, such as response times, traffic citations. Service complaints are not deemed misconduct. Slide number 6, please. What is expected when you file a complaint? All calls are audio recorded, and if in person, complaints are video recorded or are captured on body-worn camera. So if you call the station or a unit or a bureau, your call will be audio recorded during the intake of the complaint process. If you come into the station where a body-worn camera is available, your complaint will be captured on body-worn camera by the attending supervisor. So what is the first step? Complaint intake. At this stage, the complaint is formally documented. It includes the dates, time, location of the incidents, name and badge numbers of involved department members, if they're known, a clear description of what occurred, contact information for any witnesses and any available evidence, such as photos, videos, or any other piece of evidence that you might have that is related to the allegation that of the complaint. Once that is received, you will receive an acknowledgement letter. The unit or station handling the complaint will process the complaint form and send the reporting party via US mail or email an acknowledgement letter, including details on how complaints are reviewed. At this point, the service review begins. An initial review will determine the scope of the investigation. The review process. The department will interview all individuals involved, including the reporting party. All interviews will be audio recorded, if not on body-worn camera. The review will include collecting body-worn camera footage, review of reports, and witness statements, if any. Timelines. The length of the review depends on the complexity of the case. Some investigations take a few weeks, while others may take a few months. Status updates. At any time, the reporting party can contact us to request an update on their complaints. Final notification. Once the review is complete, the reporting party will receive a final letter explaining the outcome, findings, and actions. If the complaint is substantiated, the department will take appropriate corrective action regarding the employees involved. This can range from non-disciplinary actions to formal discipline. If the review finds no policy violations, that decision will also be explained to the reporting party in the outcome letter. Disagreement with the outcome. If the reporting party is not satisfied with the results, they may contact the station captain or the person overseeing their complaint. The department will listen to their concerns and make every effort to address them accordingly. Slide number 7, please. So this flow chart is the public complaint process. It is very detailed, and I will go over that. This flow chart was developed to show the cycle of the public complaint. I want you to be cognizant on the term service review and investigation. The arrows on the flow chart are color-coded, blue, yellow, and brown, and I will draw your attention to each color. The top box and the intake portion, this is where the complaint is received and an acknowledgement letter is sent to the reporting party. Step 1, complaint classification. The station or unit first classifies the complaint into one of two categories: service complaint or personnel complaint, and times both. We are going to start with the service complaint section. I draw your attention to the blue arrows to the right of the page of the flow chart. The service review is assigned to a watch commander for review. Service complaints involves, as stated earlier, service complaints involve dissatisfaction with department service, practice, or procedure, such as response times, citation disputes, or any other conduct not considered a policy violation. Once the review is complete, no further action is required unless additional issues are identified, and a letter is mailed out or emailed to the reporting party. Now let's go to step 2, personnel complaints. Personnel complaint will involve the brown and yellow arrows. Personnel complaints are classified as either a policy violation or potentially a criminal violation. We will draw your attention to criminal violation. I want you to pay attention to the brown arrows. If the complaint suggests a criminal act, the case might be referred to Internal Criminal Investigation Bureau with the concurrence of a division chief. The investigation may be conducted by ICIB, which stands for Internal Criminal Investigation Bureau, or another law enforcement agency, depending on the jurisdiction of the crime. Outcomes of criminal investigation. The case after the investigation is completed, the case is presented to the district attorney's office for filing considerations, or case is closed if there is insufficient evidence. If charges are filed, the case may result in a dismissal, acquittal, or a conviction. If charges are not filed, the district attorney may reject the case based on lack of evidence. And now I want to take your attention to the very bottom, at the bottom of the page where it says unit commander. Administrative investigations following the conclusion of a criminal investigation. Once the criminal investigation is complete, the unit commander decides whether an administrative investigation should begin. This will need the concurrence of a division or area commander. An administrative investigation is an internal process focused on whether department policies or procedures were violated by a department member. Findings of an administrative investigation can include: first, founded; second, unfounded; third, unresolved; and fourth, exonerated. Administrative investigation review process. The final findings are reviewed by multiple levels of command staff. The first is unit commander, the second is area commander, and the third is division chief. Service reviews, policy violations. Draw your attention, please, to the yellow section. If the service review determines policy violations are minor and not repeated, the unit commander of the employee uses their discretion to employee non-disciplinary actions such as training, counseling, and/or mentoring. This decision needs the agreement of the area commander. If the service review finds serious or repeated policy violation, a formal administrative investigation may be initiated by the unit commander with the concurrence of the area commander and division chief. If the allegations are sustained, possible outcomes include written reprimand, suspension, or discharge, or termination. If the allegations are not sustained, the findings may be exonerated, unfounded, or unresolved. And I will field some questions later. I'm pretty sure some people might be a little confused in that process. Let's go to slide number 8, please. Filing a complaint related to Americans with Disabilities Act. ADA-related complaints can be submitted using the standard complaint channels. The nature of ADA-related concerns should be detailed when completing the form or speaking to a department representative. Complaints can also be made using teletypewriter available at all patrol stations. ADA complaints will be reviewed by LASD personnel trained in ADA compliance and may be referred to the department's ADA coordinator or risk management bureau as needed. Slide number 9, please. Complaint reviews can result in several outcomes. All findings and dispositions require the approval of the division commander, aside from the unit commander. These findings apply towards reviews, and keep in mind, not investigations as mentioned earlier by myself and also by Mr. Harris. So one of the dispositions could be employee conduct appears reasonable. The second appears employee conduct could have been better. The third is employee conduct should have been different. The fourth is unable to make a determination. The next is resolved using conflict resolution meeting. A conflict resolution meeting is where the reporting party and the involved employee have both agreed to sit down in a meeting and adequately address all concerns, and no further actions are deemed necessary. That is called a conflict resolution. It's a great tool to have community members sit with deputy sheriffs. They could talk from their own perspectives and understand each other. The next disposition is termination of a service review, which includes 4 reasons. The first reason to terminate a review is the reporting party was under the influence at the time of the complaint was made and recontacted when sober. No misconduct was reported by the reporting party. The second reason is factual impossible complaint or reporting party demonstrated diminished capacity. This disposition is utilized before a full review has been concluded when the reporting party or the involved party appeared to be mentally unstable at the time of the complaint, or the allegations were physically impossible or illogical. The third reason for termination of a service review, third-party complaint without witnesses where the alleged aggrieved party is uncooperative or unavailable, and there is insufficient evidence to continue review or the inquiry. The last reason for termination is when the watch commander has personal knowledge the complaint is false. The next disposition is exoneration. There are 2 reasons when a service review has the exoneration disposition. Keep in mind, all exonerations require the approval of the unit commander, division commander, and division chief. The first is the employee was not personally involved or in any way connected to the incident or alleged conduct. The second Reason for exoneration is when the inquiry revealed that all allegations were clearly false or reporting party demonstrated diminished capacity. And the last on this slide is allegation of criminal conduct. We just went over that. Please refer to the flow chart. And if you have any questions, I could answer those questions regarding allegations of criminal conduct after my presentation. Slide number 10, please. Recourse if dissatisfied with outcomes. Request a review. The reporting party can request an explanation or additional information from the relevant unit or the relevant unit commander. Protections for complainants. Retaliations prohibited. Complaints are not ignored or dismissed because of immigration or status or criminal background. Slide number 11, please. Public Personnel Complaint Dashboard. The department's website now has a dashboard that allows the public to view data related to complaints lodged against sworn personnel. Accessible via lasd.org/transparency under the sworn complaints tile. One can navigate the dashboard and use filters to change the date range and obtain information on a particular station, division, or unit. Slide number 12, please. Slide number 12, please. Thank you. This summary displays complaint data across multiple patrol and service areas. The one before, please. Thank you. This summary displays complaint data across multiple patrol and service areas, allowing the public to view personnel complaints by practice area, also known as patrol area, and category. Hovering over each tile reveals explanatory detail about the complaint data. To provide some perspective, during 2024 calendar year, our deputies engaged in over 994,000 contacts with the community members, resulting in 665 personnel complaints for the year 2024. Slide number 13, please. This slide is titled Additional Resources. We have provided some additional resources for our community members in case it's needed. We have provided information for Office of Inspector General, the Office of Ombudsman as it relates to Probation Department, and the information regarding the Department of Justice. Slide number 14, please. Thank you. This slide is a screenshot of the landing page for filing complaints online at lasd.org. Go to Contact Us on the top right-hand corner where there's a drop-down option, and the complaint accommodation option is there, and that's where you can file your complaints. Slide number 15, please. In conclusion, the LASD complaint process is not only a tool for resolving individual grievances, but also a cornerstone of constitutional policing and a necessary element in building a more just and accountable law enforcement system. Along these lines, the department has been working to improve the complaint process and ensure that it is more transparent and accessible to the public. Complaint process improvements that we're working on is an updated complaint form, updated website, new complaint brochure made available to the public, department policy and updates to complaint manual, and are in progress. And why does this process matter to us? It builds community trust, ensures professional standards, empowers the public to speak up, holds department members accountable. In addition, I would like to take a moment to thank the Civilian Oversight Commission for hosting a listening session in the Antelope Valley on March 27th and tonight's online meeting. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department truly appreciates the community's involvements and the feedback that we receive. We will carefully review the input provided and will explore potential adjustments to our procedures on those inputs. Our goal is to keep improving and stay aligned with the values of modern 21st century policing. The department, including the Office of Constitutional Policing, is committed to better serving the people of Los Angeles County. This includes making sure our complaint process is easy to use, transparent, and handled quickly and fairly. As shared in this presentation, we're now posting more data on our transparency webpage, including crime stats, stop data, use of force information, and complaint information. The complaints website has also been updated. As stated earlier, you can find it under the Contact Us tab on our homepage to make it simpler and easy to use and understand. Community forums like this are extremely important to us. Your input helps us improve. Right now, we're also updating our complaint policy and its handbook to follow the latest laws and best practices. We value your partnership with the Civilian Oversight Commission and our communities, and we look forward to continuing this important work together. Thank you, and I will take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Captain Ashrafnia. We really appreciate you taking the time to fill us in on this, I'm going to say, somewhat complex complaint process. I know there's a lot of different ways these complaints can be handled, and you've outlined that there are many different branches that these can take. I hope all members of the public watching this and members of the commission appreciate this. I know it sounded a lot because you did spend a lot of time on investigations. And even though we recognize that many complaints end up in investigations, we also know that not all complaints are in need of investigation because there may not be any policy violation or violation of the law, but simply a misunderstanding between two parties, but worthy of a complaint and having someone look at the conduct of all the parties involved to see if they couldn't be better. But we appreciate your giving us some insight into that. I'm going to kick it off with just a question or two here, and then I'm going to ask other commissioners if they have questions that they would like to ask you. It does appear as if from the presentation, although you mentioned it briefly, could you just let people know again, if you don't have a computer, how do you go about filing a complaint?
Yes, filing a complaint is very easy. You could do it at a station, at a unit, at a courthouse, any LASD facility that you could walk into, you could file a complaint. You could mail it in. You could also submit it with the OIG and also with post. And you could always take our forms home and mail it in. You could write it in Spanish and English and your mother tongue, whatever language you speak, and you could submit your complaint in that manner. Mm-hmm. And obviously through a phone call, a cell phone call that you have. And again, all of your phone calls at the initiation of the complaint process will be recorded.
But again, the salient point is, I guess, that you do not have to go to the station where you think the deputy works to file the complaint. And it's probably best if you can do that, but that is not required. So if, for instance, you lived in Palmdale, but you had an interaction with a Lancaster deputy, you could file your complaint at the Palmdale station if that was more convenient for you. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's very correct. You could, as I indicated earlier, you could walk into any sheriff's facility and file a complaint, and that complaint will be routed to the handling unit where the complaint was occurred at, and each complaint is numbered. That number and a green copy of the complaint will be handed to you, and an acknowledgement letter will be mailed to you upon processing the complaint, with a letter that documents the process of the complaint review process.
Mhm.
So yes, you are right. You don't have to go to the station where the aggrieved party is, and you could go to any facility and file your complaint. If your complaint was in Lancaster, you could go to Santa Clarita, you could go to West Hollywood, you could come to San Dimas. We'll take your complaint,
Okay.
and then at that time, we'll forward the complaint to the unit that will be handling the complaint.
And again, I guess for the people listening in, before they stop their interaction with whoever's taking the complaint, they should receive a number which identifies the form that their complaint has been taken on. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, so they should always they'll either be given a form with that number on it if it's an in-person contact, or if it's not in person, say over the telephone, the watch commander who they're speaking with will give them that number over the telephone, and they should definitely jot that down as a reference point, correct?
That is correct, sir. If it's done by phone, that number will be given to you over the phone. If it's done by mail, you will receive an acknowledgement letter documenting that number. You will have that number, and you will get a green copy. The Watch Commander Service Common Form has 3 copies: a white copy, a yellow copy, and a green copy. The green copy always goes to the RP, the person that's making the complaint. The green copy has the number memorialized.
Okay.
Yes. And then let me just go a step further. If you come in contact with any of your deputy sheriffs in the field, and if you're unhappy, we have supervisors available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You could just request a supervisor. The supervisors could come to the location where you are, and you could even initiate the complaint at the location where you believe that the complaint occurred at, or the policy violation occurred at. That's an option also.
But again, typically the complaints are taken by the watch commander. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and they're typically not going to go out in the field. You could talk to a sergeant, and perhaps you can resolve whatever the issues are informally. But if you, in fact, are adamant that you want a formalized complaint taken, probably the best route is to go to the station, because then you can talk to the watch commander, and they will give you a copy of the complaint form. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess I'll ask one more, then I'll turn it over to, like, say, any commissioners that have any questions, then we'll get to the public. So there is a good reason why it's preferred that the complainant make the complaint in person to the watch commander. And can you explain why that is advantageous to the complainant and the department?
Yes, for 2 reasons. Number one, all the details are very fresh. When the person walks in to the station, it provides us an opportunity to detail the complaint, ask the questions that are necessary for our investigation. For a review, and we could, and then the incident is fresh in the mind of the reporting party or the complainants. We'll audio record or body-worn camera record the incident, and we could get the details that is necessary for our review.
Good. At this point, I will open up any other commissioners if they have any questions of you or comments. Okay. Commissioner Callaway, it looks like you're the man on the point.
Yes, I have a question regarding the complaint form. So I've gone to the sheriff's station and I've seen the complaint form, and it is complaint form SHCR 596. Is that the complaint form that you're referring to that's going to be at the station if I were to walk in and to file a complaint?
Yes, there's a form that's at the actual counter, and there's another form that the watch commander has that are numbered and serialized, and we have to keep track of that. And that is with the watch commander, who will bring it out with him or her to take the complaint. There's other complaint forms that are at the station lobby that you could take and mail it in. Those ones do not have a serial number. but the one that the watch commander has, I'm not sure if that is what was the number you said, sir?
Sierra Hilo Charlie Romeo 596.
Okay. Yes, that's the mail-in form.
So this is, in my experience, and that's why I want to get clarification, because going through the policy, hearing what you just said, that means if somebody directs me when I come into the station, well, one, most of the time that I come into the station, there's nobody that's actually at the front desk. And then, but these forms are sitting there and they say complaint on it. And
Yes.
then what happens is that I fill out the complaint form, and then eventually somebody comes out and receives that form and then goes into the back. So my question would be, is that what happens to the 596 form when it is actually received by someone on the other side of the glass?
Right. That complaint form should be given to the watch commander. And if you're coming to the station to file a complaint, we prefer you get a hold of the watch commander. The watch commander will come out in the lobby, or the watch commander will bring you inside the station if you would like to go inside the station, and they could take your complaint on a form that's basically like this with a number on top of it. And this is in 3 copies. And once your complaint is documented on that form, they'll rip out the green form and give it to you. I think the one that you are talking about is the mail-in form. So that should be given to the watch commander also, and the watch commander should come out there and meet you in the lobby to interview you to find out what the complaint is all about. And they should go ahead and put it on a form with a number on it.
Copy. So I'm just because I'm just trying to make sure this that I understand it, so I'm able to help people. If this form 596 form is filled out, there is no number on that form. That means that if it goes back there in your complaint policy, the chapter 4, how am I to actually follow up if I'm only given the option to use 596? I understand that there's a watch commander report service comment form that has a serialized number on the page that I would be able to use in order to follow up with that ID. But I'm asking that because the community needs a little help in this, because this is like literally the off ramp into the complaint process, right? And every station that I've been to, the 596 form has been either given to me or has been pointed at for me to fill out. And there was no option to speak to the watch commander due to the staffing, manning issues, or that it would be a 3-hour wait and I got to go to work, all of those things. So if I am using the 596 form, how would I be able to talk to the deputy that's at the desk that is not the watch commander to make sure that I will be able to follow up tomorrow that the watch commander actually got that form?
Right. So I'm sorry that that happened to you, sir, because when you walk into a lobby of a station and you want to file a complaint, the watch commander should come out there and take your complaint. If you want to resort to using the mail-in form and you give that to a deputy, I would recommend to get the deputy's name and call the next day and talk to the unit commander or somebody from the operations staff to follow up on that complaint if you don't receive an acknowledgement letter. But you should receive an acknowledgement letter, because if you submit a mail-in form at the station, it goes to the operations staff, they will process it and you will get an acknowledgement letter within a couple of days via mail. Unless you have identified an email, we will email that acknowledgement letter to you with a service complaint form number that we fill one out after we receive the mail-in form.
Well, I have to say, I think Commissioner Callaway does point out an area that perhaps the commission can look at. There might be another way we can kind of tighten that up, because I understand where he's concerned, and it's a legitimate concern. I can say we might want to consider that even if the watch commander is not available for whatever reason, that perhaps that form that the complainant has filled out and handed to the deputy, that be attached to a watch commander service comment form, that piece you tear out, that those two things would be stapled together, and then there would be a serialized record. Because I know the department does, well, you tell me, does the department audit those serialized watch commander service comment reports to make sure that they are in fact being handled?
The ones with the serial numbers?
Yes.
Yes, those are we keep a log of those things, and they are kept under lock and key to ensure that those don't walk away. Number one, each one of them is serialized, each one of them is accounted for. So therefore, a deputy will not have access to them. A supervisor at the rank of sergeant or above will have access to them, predominantly a lieutenant who's working in the capacity of a watch commander. And when a person walks into the lobby and they would like to file a complaint, obviously at times they might be a little busy, and then they will make time for you and they will come outside to the lobby to take your complaints. However, if you don't have time and you want to drop off the mail-in form, the mail-in form will go to a lieutenant. The lieutenant will fill out a watch commander service form that is serialized. You will receive an acknowledgement letter, including the green copy of the serialized form, and you will have the SCR number and a letter explaining what the complaint process is or how it's going to flow. So I am very sorry that you had to go through that experience at that station that you went to, but however, the right way is for the watch commander to come out and take your complaint. And audit and accountability does audits on our service comment forms.
Right. I think Commissioner Callaway does point up an area that we probably need to take a good look at to see if there isn't some better way that we can ensure that there is accountability for those complaints. Because for one thing, I think all members of the public should know that their complaint should not be taken. I mean, you can hand that written complaint to a deputy to take back and give to the watch sergeant or the watch commander, but complaints should be taken by the watch commander. There will be times when a sergeant would be the watch commander and therefore be the appropriate person to take the complaint. The complaint should never be taken by deputy personnel. Is that correct, Captain?
That is 100% correct. Yes. The complaint should be taken either by a sergeant if a watch commander at the rank of lieutenant is not available, or predominantly it should be taken by a lieutenant, rank of lieutenant as a watch commander.
Okay. Commissioner Galloway, do you have any other questions you'd like to ask?
Yes, I just wanted to understand what is the process at which, if I were to get past the first hurdle of the 596 form, and then the watch commander actually receive it, then the watch commander then transfers that information onto the watch commander comment form. There are milestones within your policy of how long it should be before the acknowledgement letter comes out, how long it should be before it's actually transferred to the unit commander, division chief, all these different milestones. Where and how do you understand basically, like, I'm in IT, so we have help tickets. Then the help ticket says it has been 30 days since you've installed since the request to install Microsoft Office. So what actual database or system is in place so that if my complaint is back there, that on the 31st day that you have just went overdue on answering my complaint?
Each station individually tracks their outstanding administrative work, and usually also each division tracks complaints to ensure the status of them are quickly. And obviously some investigations are complex. There's a lot of witnesses, there's a lot of evidence, and we prioritize some of our SCRs, which is the service complaint processes. And to answer your questions, each station unit commander has systems in place to track their own complaint process to see how speedy these complaints are getting completed.
When you
We're
say
updating-
system,
We're updating our systems to include it to where we can leverage technology to exactly do what you say, that we make it streamlined to where you could see how you could follow your own complaint that you have submitted.
okay, so is the station, if I was in Lancaster, which I live, you're saying the unit commander tracks it, but do they use an Excel sheet? Do they use Access? Do they use just a filing cabinet and puts it in a folder that says 30 days? I'm asking for specifically, how is it actually tracked? So if it goes overdue, that some signal goes up to say Arthur Callaway, a citizen, has had a complaint in the process for 30 days and received no acknowledgement letter.
There's a system that's called a performance tracking risk management tracker that has all the risk management files in there. And that also tracks all of the outstanding admin work, which includes service comment, force, traffic collisions. It tracks it, and that is one of the ways that they track if something is overdue that needs a acknowledgement letter, the investigation is taking too long. That's how they track it.
Is that an automated system? And this is
Yes.
my last question, and now Charmaine, and by automated, I mean, if Lieutenant Rodriguez is the person that is actually over investigating or performing the inquiry or however it's posed,
Mm-hmm.
this performance tracking risk management tracking program, once it hits day 31, does it send out an email to Lieutenant Rodriguez and says, this is now overdue?
No,
Like, how does that process work?
so it's tracked on 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days. And the operations staff follows those reports to make sure that certain investigations and reviews are completed in a timely manner. They don't get an automated email. They have to log on to the tracker, and the tracker will be printed out. It shows exactly the SCR number, the force investigation number, and it shows how many days it's overdue and how many days the investigation has taken so far.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Before I get to Charmaine, if I could just follow up on that quickly. So there is a benchmark, though. How many days after a complaint is received at the station is the station supposed to send out an acknowledgement letter acknowledging the fact that they've received the complaint? How many days are supposed to go by before that letter goes out?
Within 3 days.
Within 3 days. So I guess the message to the public is, if you do not receive a letter, of course, now with the post office, it may take a little longer than 3 days for it to get there in the U.S. mail. But within 3 days, a letter should have been generated by the sheriff's department and put in the U.S. mail to the address that you provided, should you provide them with an address. We hope you would. So within, given the delays in the mail service, within 7, 8, 10 days, if you haven't received a letter from the sheriff's department, the good thing to do would be to contact the unit commander at that sheriff station to find out whether or not they are in fact in receipt of your complaint. Would that be the advice you'd give to the general public, Captain?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, at any stage of the complaint process, you could contact the sheriff's department, the particular station, and ask for the operations staff. Now, the unit commander has a supporting staff that works with them, which consists of a secretary, a sergeant, a lieutenant, and himself. You could contact the operations office at any time and check up on the status of your service comment complaint that you have submitted. And they will give you an update on where it is, what's going on, and they could give you updates on exactly what's going on with that review.
Ms. Mosley, I saw you had your hand up.
I do, and I have several questions, so I
Good.
apologize.
No problem. No, nothing to apologize for. That's what we're here for.
So, my first question is, are all complaints turn into cases that are going to be investigated? Or is there some type of process in between when you receive a complaint, it goes to the watch commander? Does somebody classify these complaints to decide what happens afterwards? Or do just all complaints get investigated?
Yeah, so complaints when they come in, right? When they come in, they get reviewed to see what the allegations are. Let's say, for example, if the allegation is, hey, the deputy stole something from my house. Obviously, we have to do a quick inquiry to find out if if there's reasonable suspicion for theft. If that is the case, that allegation will be investigated as a criminal incident and is going to get criminally investigated if that reasonable suspicion exists that a crime might have taken place. If you say that the deputy was driving at 40 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, that possibly could be a policy violation. We're going to look at that a different manner. So depending what the allegation is, yes, the allegation gets classified, and every complaint will get looked at either as a criminal violation or as a policy violation or as a service review. If you say that yesterday my son got a ticket because he was driving 35 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, well, the deputy was doing his job and that's the only allegation, then that will be investigated or reviewed as a service review because the deputy was providing a service to the community and doing his job, and there's no other policy violations. But if the deputy was discourteous to you during a traffic stop, then that becomes a personnel complaint and it will be a personnel service review. And once the review is completed, we will see what policy is violated. And another thing that's going to be reviewed is if that deputy is violating that policy repeatedly. And then it's up to the division or up to the unit commander to see how that incident is going to get handled. Is it going to go to an investigation, or it's going to be handled through a non-disciplinary training to reinforce better skills, coaching and counseling, or a official performance log entry. So yes, all allegations will get evaluated and reviewed.
Okay, and then my second question is piggybacking off of what Commissioner Callaway was asking. It seems like in a department as large as LASD that there would be some type of tickler system or notification system that keeps track of or that informs whoever's responsible to, I guess, to intervene. Let's say intervene during the complaint process. We know that if there was a let's say sustained finding, let's say that a deputy engaged in misconduct and it violated policy, the department would have at least a year to discipline that deputy, correct? But if that complaint is stuck in, let's say, sitting on somebody's desk and there's like no notification, that time may go beyond that year and then the deputy will not get disciplined because it goes beyond that. So this is something for the complaints ad hoc committee to possibly be looking at, as well as the department, I believe, because when we're like, there has to be some type of computerized system that tells individuals who are responsible, hey, you know, we're approaching 60 days or we're approaching 90 days. And we know we have to notify the deputy and notify whoever else that's involved within a certain time period. So I was just piggybacking off of what Commissioner Callaway was saying, because I know that sometimes complex investigations may take longer to investigate, but there has to be something that's in place to make sure that it's done within a timely manner. So I just want to
Mostly, if I could just interject in here too, I know this is where it gets a little bit in the weeds because there's watch commander service comment reports, which we call complaints, but that complaint could lead to an investigation, which again could lead to the exact type of problem you just described. I wonder if Lieutenant Jones from Internal Affairs Bureau, if he could speak to that at all, because doesn't the Internal Affairs Bureau keep track of investigations to see where they are, and so they don't run up against statute of limitation problems, the 1 year statute, to where suddenly there's nothing you can do? Could you speak to that, Lieutenant Jones?
Absolutely, sir. Yes, that is correct. Once it becomes an investigation and is handled here at Internal Affairs Bureau, we do track it and we do have, say, checkpoints along the way to ensure that we are going to meet the statute date to either possibly inform the deputy or the employee of what possible discipline that there may be. But there are we have a tracking system here at IAB, and there are constant through operations emails and notifications to the investigator as well as the team lieutenant to ensure that that investigator is staying on point for that investigation to be completed in a fairly timely process.
And Arthur, I see you have your hand up, and Charmaine, I know you still have some more questions, but just for a little clarification on what Lieutenant Jones just mentioned. Now, that's good for internal affairs, but if the investigation is handled at the unit level, does internal affairs have any responsibility for that tracking, or is that tracking all the responsibility of the unit commander? It looks like Captain Ashrafina.
You just call me Ash.
All right, I will.
Yeah,
I'm messing that up. I apologize.
Okay. Yeah. So that's a great question. Investigations that are conducted at a unit level, there's tracking systems in place that we have to provide updates monthly on where our investigation is at. So the systems, the checks and balances that are at the station level, we have to provide updates monthly to division, which supervises and oversees each station and bureau on where those investigations are. We are always very responsive to ensure that these investigations, the dates we don't go past these dates. As Ms. Mosley indicated, we have 1 year. And obviously, we can't give cases at 60 days, at 30 days, at 60 days, at 90 days, 120 days, 180 days. Each 30 days, we have to provide an update and where the investigation is at, what needs to be done for the investigations to be completed. So that is monitored very closely by the station staff and by division, okay? And then also, internal affairs also monitors some of our cases that gets close to statute. So there's 3 levels of oversight as it relates to investigations. Now, was Ms. Mosley's questions about investigations or service reviews?
It looks like you said investigations, but we couldn't hear you, but it looks like you were saying investigations.
Investigations, yes. So, keep in mind that there's a lot of checks and balances in place to ensure that investigations do not expire.
And while Ms. Mosley is getting her audio back up, Commissioner Callaway, you have another question.
Yeah, so I would like to really roll it all the way back. I would assume that under a criminal or alleged criminal act, that an investigation, when it turns into an official investigation, that there are going to be tracking measures to track that. Okay. So, but my issue is that in order for it to even get there for analysis, for a proper analysis, then we have to have an onboarding system so that it doesn't time out beforehand. So in the policy 3-04-010.05 procedures for department service review, it says an SCR shall be completed within 30 days, right? So what I'm saying is that the SCR shall be completed in 30 days, which means that there should be, it's not, I didn't find 3 days anywhere that the acknowledgement letter needed to be in 3 days anywhere in the policy. And if it is there, please send the message to executive director, deputy director, or whoever, so that I can figure out what chapter that is. But if it's supposed to be done within 30 days, then if I do the 596 and I can't track that, then I go back in and I get the watch commander to actually do an SCR. Then the watch commander has 30 days to complete the SCR. What I'm saying is that, just to be clear, there is no actual automation or anything. It is a manual process. Somebody has to log in, an administrator of some sort has to log in, see that it is busted the time, and then email whoever is in charge of that SCR, correct?
Correct. So each station has a risk management tracker. That tracker, when a SCR or a Watch Commander Service Common Form is initiated, all the data is uploaded into that risk management tracker. The risk management tracker will keep a tally on how many days that investigate or review is overdue, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. But yes, you are right. They don't get an automatic email telling them that, hey, this one is overdue. A person reviews that. That's part of their duties. They review that and they notify the person, hey, Lieutenant Ash, Captain Ash, this SCR assigned to you is 30 days, 60 days. Can you please get it done?
Yep,
And then you get
copy
the
that.
managers involved, and then they basically put, let's do this,
So-
let's get this,
Yep, copy that. So then the question, and then I'll volley it back to Executive Director. Which actual date starts the 365-day clock? Is it the date at which the SCR? Because in the policy, it says that once the incident is reviewed. And so do they mean the incident reviewed as the SCR, or does the date actually start at the administrative investigation and then the 365 days actually clock starts running? Which one starts the clock?
That's a great question, Mr. Callaway. Lieutenant Jones, you want to take that one?
Yes, absolutely. The administrative clock starts when a supervisor becomes aware of the potential violation that is being alleged. That's when the clock starts. So let's just say, even if there is a potential violation and there's still an inquiry that's going to be done to determine if there is going to be an administrative investigation, the administrative clock starts as soon as the supervisor becomes aware of that potential violation.
That means it could start, it starts when they become aware, which if they become aware during the SCR, then that's when the clock starts.
Yes.
Yes, for a supervisor, a sergeant or above. So yes.
Copy that. So that is, I mean, and then I'll let Charmaine, but that is very concerning because on the front end, that SCR process, it has to be manually pushed to be investigated. I understand that there is a risk database that is tracking it, but if I don't look at that database for 3 months, and then it's after the captain is aware of that it may or may not have been an issue, then the clock has already started. It starts at the point that somebody's aware, not at the point at which it goes into investigation. So you can burn a lot of time in between.
We run those reports consistently to ensure that we don't miss the dates that you're talking about. We have to run reports that are over 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and cases are monitored closely to where we have to report to our division of what the status of those cases are. So if a case is entered, it gets followed. It's somebody's responsibility and we follow it.
Yeah, understood. But I don't know, but maybe because there's other people that actually go to the, COC. I know y'all are actually busy, but monthly we have actual people from the community saying that they have not been contacted for their actual complaint. And they come month after month saying they haven't been contacted. So that is just to put a flag in it and understand what you're saying. But I just want, because this should be understanding that it's somewhere the perception is that these complaints are not being answered to in the milestones that it's being dictated by your policy. And then on your side, you're saying it is. So we need to find that bridge to understand where's the disconnect as far as community to sheriff and sheriff to community. Sorry that I took so much of your time, ED.
It's okay. I think these are all good
We got time.
questions.
They are, yeah.
And I was just going to make it a little bit more difficult by talking about when complaints are told.
Okay, well, make it more difficult.
There are times when a complaint can become told, right? So
Yes.
that stops the whole clock. But that's not my question. I wanted to ask a question regarding last year, the commission held a joint meeting with the Probation Oversight Commission, and I believe it was Captain Diedrich at the time. He was talking about the dashboard and the findings of LASD or IAB, or the findings that y'all use when disposing of cases. And something that was troubling to me, as well as some of the commissioners, were the finding of could have done better and should be better, or something like that. I think those are the two dispositions, instead of using sustained. And he said at the time, I can go back and watch the video, but I thought that he said at the time that the department was looking at those two findings to make it more uniform with what is used on the state level, such as sustained, meaning the law enforcement member engaged in misconduct and violated policy and procedure. That would have been a sustained finding. Could have done better, to me, seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, Captain Ash, if the deputy engaged in misconduct, but he could have done better. He could have done better. So maybe he could, he would probably get training or something like that. So please explain to me what could have done better means and should have done better, and why the department does not use sustained, because sustained, you can actually discipline misconduct.
Yes, ma'am, that's a great question. And I agree with you. It might be a little confusing for some folks. So when we talk about a peer's employee conduct could have been better, it basically means that the employee's actions were in compliance with procedures and policies and guidelines. However, the complaint could have been minimized, or if the employee had employed tactical communication principles or common sense, the actual allegation would not be made. So with that being said, that is exactly what a peer's employee's conduct could have been better means. So basically what occurs during the actual contact is according to policy, procedures, and practice. However, the deputy didn't employ tactical communication properly to minimize the allegation, or even not have the allegation be made. So that is when that incident or that disposition applies. And then when you have employees' conduct should have been different, the employee's actions were not in compliance with established procedures, policies, or guidelines, or training, watch commander will take appropriate action. In that incident, if an employee is doing something, he's having a bad day, he makes a mistake, right? That's a mistake that our employees make. However, it becomes concerning if that employee continuously to make the same mistake over and over again. Then we have to apply different mechanisms to correct that behavior. And that might go to an administrative investigation.
So it's okay for an employee to violate policy or procedure one time.
No, I didn't say that.
So please explain that again, because I'm trying to find out what's the finding for if a deputy engaged in misconduct and violated policy and procedure? What is the finding for that?
Employees'
If
conduct.
if I can maybe clarify that too. If there has been a violation of policy, you will never get a finding of they could have done better. That's not a legitimate finding for a policy violation. If they violated policy, there was an investigation, and then you would have sustained, founded, unresolved, whatever that language is. But you would not, on a founded investigation, if they violated policy, then you're not going to have language that says they could have done better, or they should have done better. It'd been nice if they'd done better. That's inappropriate language for that type of resolution. And did I misstate anything there, Captain? If I did,
Yeah,
please correct me.
I think where people get confused at is an investigation as it relates to the service common process. An investigation is when something goes to an internal investigation. Okay.
And
Before
that doesn't mean
that
internal affairs. That doesn't mean internal
yeah,
affairs. That
it's an
means
investigation.
investigation that can be handled by Internal Affairs Bureau or can be handled at the unit level. It's still an
Yes.
investigation, though. That's the distinction.
If an employee, somebody calls us and says your employee did X, Y, and Z, and if that employee violated policy, we have to evaluate what that policy violation is and what type of action we're going to take with that employee, right? So in no shape, way, or form am I saying that violating policy is okay. But it is our responsibility how to correct that behavior. Are we going to correct that behavior with training, with coaching and counseling, with mentorship, with training, or it's very egregious and we're going to open an official investigation where, if founded, they could get discipline between written reprimand all the way up to termination and discharge.
So now my question is that in that dashboard? Is that fine then? Like if something was founded that the deputy engaged in misconduct, is that on the dashboard? Founded instead of sustained? I'm just trying to figure out what was agreed to.
The dashboard has a on the very right side, it has a tile that says unit level investigation. That means that a unit level investigation was initiated as a result of the actual complaint coming into the station.
That means that it's
Yes. When you say unit level investigation, though, are you equating that to an administrative investigation or just that it was looked at? Okay, you are correct.
Yes. It was looked at in an investigation, whether it's a unit level investigation or an internal affairs investigation. It was initiated as a result of that action that was reported by the community member. Yes, it is on our dashboard.
Okay, so I'm really confused, but I'm not going to take up more time. I'm going to have to try to, I guess, spend some more time
Yes,
outside of this meeting to try to understand it. Because if I'm looking at the dashboard and I'm looking at, deputies that were exonerated or could have done better, should have done better, and I don't really see in there where there is deputies that's like violated policies and procedures. Yes, it's going to another unit, right? That's probably investigating it. But then what if that investigation turns into something that, maybe it turned into it was unfounded or something, I guess, right? So it's not clear to me.
Right. Deputy Gary, you want to talk about that, please?
Yes, sir. How are you? Good evening, everybody. I'm Lieutenant Gary. I'm the Discovery Lieutenant. So, to explain further, I'm going to try to explain, see if it makes sense to you. When doing an investigation for a WCACR, if the department determines that there is findings that are potential policy violations of criminal, it does go to internal affairs. So the SCR itself, the WCACR, is closed out, but the investigation will continue as an administrative investigation, either by the unit or by internal affairs. So the SCR will be completed, but the investigation will continue because we do have the 1-year statute, as we mentioned earlier, to complete that investigation and determine the appropriate actions to be taken.
But what if the deputy engaged in harassment, or like there was a whole list of allegations that was under personal, I think, complaints? Personal complaints. It was like a whole bunch of allegations. So what if that deputy engaged in misconduct under those allegations that were listed?
So the way it works, ma'am, is when the watch commander or the investigator at the unit determines that there was potential misconduct for those allegations or multiple allegations, whether it's 1 or 10, it will refer to the unit commander. Hey, we noticed that this WCSCR has allegations that we determined are possibly administrative or criminal in nature, and a referral is done to either Internal Affairs or the Internal Criminal Investigations Bureau for them to determine whether the investigation should be continued at that level with the concurrence of the division chief.
Well, let me ask, because I think I get this, but I'm not sure. So if during the review of the Watch Commander Service Comment Report, it's determined that, for instance, let's use the harassment as an example. The deputy is alleged to have committed some harassing conduct, and the initial review finds that there is probably some smoke with that fire, and we need to open up an administrative investigation. Now, that can be handled at the unit level, or it can be handled at internal affairs, depending on a number of factors, how serious the allegation is, and other things. But the point is, it's now moved from just a Watch Commander Service Comment Report where the could have done better, should have done better qualification no longer applies. It's now an administrative investigation. Is the Watch Commander Service Comment Report then closed out with a notation referred to, and with an investigative number says referred to either IAB or the unit level to do an administrative investigation? So in other words, that puts an end to the Watch Commander Service Comment Report per se, but there's still an investigation ongoing, and the Watch Commander Service Comment Report would refer to that investigative number so you could track it. Did I explain that right, or am I off here?
No, yes, you are 100% right. When that type of a behavior is identified and the unit commander determines that an investigation is necessary, they will close out the SCR and initiate a
Investigation.
That investigation is given a IAB number. That number is cross-referenced with that SCR.
Right.
And once the investigation is completed, within that year, when we became aware of that policy violation, that unit commander, in concurrence with the division chief and area commander, will determine the discipline on that deputy.
Well, that's why it sounds like it would be really incumbent upon the unit commander to make that determination in as short an amount of time as possible. If they think that there's some conduct that is in violation of policy, they need to start an internal investigation or an administrative investigation as soon as possible, because the date on that Watch Commander Service Comment form is going to determine the 365 days under which the investigation needs to be completed. And if there is discipline recommended, that discipline is given out, correct?
Yes, if the allegations are founded, yes, definitely. We have to get that investigation done within the time limits that we have by POBAR. Yes.
Okay. So there's a linkage between the WCSCR and an administrative investigation. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make,
Right.
and hopefully people understand that, and they are cross-referenced. So if you were to come into the station and say, I filed a complaint on this thing 6 months ago, and I haven't heard back, someone at the station could at least look that up and say, well, as a matter of fact, that turned into an administrative investigation, and perhaps it's still open. You will be notified when that's complete and being told what you are legally allowed to know about it, but you would be able to at least know that, in fact, yeah, your complaint did lead to something, and in fact, it led to an administrative investigation, which is still ongoing at the station level, or maybe it's been resolved if they can happen that fast. Would that be a correct statement?
Yes, that is a correct statement. And depending on the severity of the allegation, if it's a discharge case, the case will be most likely investigated by the Internal Affairs Bureau. If there's witnesses throughout the county that needs to be interviewed, Internal Affairs Bureau is equipped with investigators that could travel throughout the county and investigate individuals that are necessary for the investigation to get completed, and they will do the investigation. But at times, the investigation is conducted at the unit level, and we will get the investigation completed within the 365 days to ensure that we meet the guidelines established by POBAR.
Ms. Mosley, I hope that provides some clarity. Do you have any follow-up questions you want to ask?
I don't. I have to think about it some more. And I'll
I don't blame you. This is a thinking kind of thing. There are a lot of different ways these things can branch, and I know it can be very confusing. depending on the circumstances that are presented. Commissioner Callaway, do you have any further questions you'd like to ask before I open it up to the public?
The last thing, and I mean, I just don't understand your 365-day limit. So if you have a complex situation, we all know different investigations are going to take different amount of times that you can't even predict. So why is there, and I completely understand if you don't know. I don't mean to give you a bailout, but I just don't understand how you can say we will do the investigation before 365 days guaranteed, because I don't feel like you would be able to guarantee that, and that there should be some way, which I did not see in the policy, of providing or asking for an extension so that if this person was doing criminal behavior, that then as a department, you'd be able to discipline them. So is there an extension that you'd be able to do? Is it 365 days and a possibility of an extension when it goes into different departments? Is it 365 days for each department, ICIB, IAB, the district attorney? Like, how does that process work? And then that, I honestly will not ask another question.
That's okay. You
Thank
can
you,
ask
Mr.
all you
Callaway.
want, but
Thank
that's a
you for-
good question. I
that's a
think
great
there's an
question.
answer for that. Yeah. Go ahead, Captain.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Yes, this is a great question. So if an investigation goes into, an incident goes into a criminal investigation, the time tolls. The 365 days tolls due to the fact that now it's a criminal investigation, and the time will start once the criminal investigation is completed. And I could defer to Lieutenant Jones that could elaborate a little further on that.
Yes, absolutely. As Captain Ash was talking about, if it's a criminal investigation, that will take precedence first. Okay, so once the criminal investigation is completed and the request has come to Internal Affairs Bureau, that's when the 365 days begin. And per POBAR, Peace Officer Bill of Rights, we have to complete that case within 365 days. So it has to be done. So that's where you get the time limit from, because that is based off of Peace Officer Bill of Rights.
Yeah, but the question is, if there is in fact a criminal allegation, and that's the one thing that will toll the 365 days. If there's a criminal allegation and the department initiates the criminal investigation, then the 365 days is tolled at that point. So that investigation can take as long as it needs, and sometimes they take more than a year, even a couple of years. That does not impact the department's ability to then come back later. So, for instance, a criminal case is investigated. They determine they believe there's probable cause to believe a crime was committed. They write up a case, send it to the district attorney. District attorney looks at it, and they decide, nope, not enough evidence here. We're not going to file the case. It goes back to the department, and at that point, the 365 days starts, or however much is left in that 365. Probably a few weeks got eaten up in the beginning when they were trying to determine what was going on. And then the department has a chance to look at it administratively and say, okay, we couldn't prove the criminal aspect, but that does not mean there was not a policy violation here for which we may discipline the employee, which could result in up to termination. So there is a mechanism in place, and please, if I'm misstating this, someone correct me, but there is a mechanism in place. So if you have serious misconduct that may take longer than a year to investigate, if it is criminal in nature, you have the ability to toll it. Now, if it is not criminal in nature, like Lieutenant Jones just said, if it's not criminal in nature, but it's still a pretty serious policy violation, that means IAB or whoever's doing it, in this case, if it's that serious, it would be at Internal Affairs Bureau. They're on the hook to work it hard to get this thing done. And those things, from my knowledge, those things do occur occasionally, not routinely, but they do occur occasionally. But perhaps the Lieutenant Jones can speak to that.
No, you're absolutely correct. Yeah, like I said, we have to complete that case within 365 days to let the employee know what the discipline is. So that is set, like I said, based off of the Peace Officer Bill of Rights. Just for the public to understand, when you hear the word tolling, that's pretty much just like a pause. Think of it that way. It's a pause that the administrative case has not begun because of various reasoning. Like I said, you're talking about for the criminal investigation going first. But when you hear the word toll, that means the case, the administrative case, is on pause. Think of it that way.
Right. Okay, if we're good with that, Tracy, do we have any questions from the public?
Yes, we actually do. There are a number of attendees that are anxious to ask some questions.
Well, let's
So
go.
this time, if you'd like, I will give the explanation as to how they could go about making those questions.
Please go ahead.
All right. As a reminder, if you are logged into WebEx to ask questions, please raise your hand. If you have been called in, or if you've called in, please do *3 to get your hand raised in the queue, and we will unmute you. I will unmute you when it's your turn to speak to ask your question. To ask your question, again, you must be logged in to WebEx or phoned into the meeting. We will not time the Q&A session. At this time, before we begin, I will turn to my colleague, Robert, who will make the announcement in Spanish.
Buenas tardes. Para hacer una pregunta por WebEx, levante la mano. Si ha llamado por teléfono, presione la estrella y el número 3 para ingresar. Le activaré el silencio cuando sea tu turno para que puedas hacer tu pregunta. Antes de comenzar, por favor, diga español. Gracias.
Okay, Tracy, do we have our first question?
Yes, our first public comment will be from Vanessa Perez. Vanessa, you have been unmuted.
I have a couple questions. The first one's going to go ahead and be, what disciplinary measures are in place if a deputy retaliates against someone who has filed a complaint? Is there an independent oversight body that monitors complaints against deputies?
Okay, who would like to tackle that question specific to retaliation?
Yes, retaliation is protected, and that is a policy violation, and OIG monitors complaints once they're lodged with the department. And officers, and also POST is the Commission on Peace Officer Standards with the state of California.
Okay, I have another question. What is the process for escalating a complaint if the initial outcome is unsatisfactory, or if the complaint feels targeted afterwards?
Yes, what you could do is you have two options. Option number one is to contact the unit commander and have a meeting with the unit commander to talk about your complaint and the outcome of your complaint. And if you're not satisfied with that, please contact OIG.
Okay, you say that, and I have done that before, and they have found it in policy with the beating of my son, and IAB was not rolled out, and there was no ending to it. It never went any further than the station, in other words. And here we are 5 years later, and I brought it to the attention to the COC, and they did violate. So what do we do in that type of situation?
Well, I think I will attempt to answer that. Until there is some change in the manner in which the COC is allowed to conduct oversight, there may not be any change. However, that is something we are working at right now. We're attempting to get the county ordinance changed so we would have access to confidential information, so we could, in fact, review the results of those investigations. Now, I understand there has been a change in policy that I think if the same situation occurred to your son today, it would automatically go to the Internal Affairs Bureau. But at the time of the incident that occurred to your son, that was not the policy. And again, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. I don't have the newest policy in front of me, but I know the Civilian Oversight Commission is working feverishly to get the county ordinance amended so that we would have access to confidential information, so we could review those type of reports in situations like occurred to your son.
Thank you, JP Harris.
Thank
You're
you, Ms. Perez,
you're
for
welcome.
the
I see Commissioner Callaway does have a comment or a question real quick. I don't want to take too much time away though from the public.
I just want to ask, I think what she was specifically asking for it and what you're alluding to is, so is there an actual policy that if I submit a complaint and then the unit commander says that's nothing to see here, is there something that allows me to escalate it beyond the unit commander due to the ability for a conflict of interest to exist?
Mm-hmm.
At this point, you could contact OIG or the Department of Justice.
Right. Those are your options as of today. Okay, Tracy, next question.
Thank you. Our next question would be from Colin Anonymous. Anonymous, you have been unmuted. Anonymous?
Okay, this is Anonymous. Yes, I guess I'm anonymous tonight. How are you?
Well, great. Go ahead with your question.
Okay. Yeah, great. My question real quick. I'd like to know if there is, if an example would be if somebody would break the law from that is foreign to, let's say, California, they're from a different country, they're coming to California, would we send that man or woman over back to their country to go through the investigation, to go through all the process of the adjudication, and will we allow the other country to take care of the lawbreaker, or will we actually continue try them and investigate their actions here, and if it happened in California, would it stick in California? I was wondering if anybody knows that answer.
So I can answer that, but I don't know if anybody else wants to. Captain, if you want to, go ahead, please.
No, go ahead. So is that related to a complaint process that we have, or?
No, it sounds like it's a general question. If someone from another country violates the law here, would we prosecute them here and give them all the rights of a citizen, even though they are not a citizen of this country, due process rights, or would we push that off to another country? And as of today, the law in this country is we would adjudicate them here, they would be tried here, and we would not send them somewhere else, but we don't control the people in Washington, D.C.
I get it. The reason I'm asking that, of course, is because if we are, if there's somebody that's committing an action that's damaging, and they take their time out and they file a complaint, why would we think that by giving giving the complaint to the same quote unquote agency, the same family, the same department, the same I guess agency, or in a sense the same country, to have them adjudicate or have them investigate their own members? To me it makes zero sense. I don't know why anybody else doesn't see it. Maybe I'm living in some sort of different realm here, but I mean I don't get it. Could you guys explain who thought of that idea to not have a real oversight committee that actually is from outside the agency for checks and balances? I mean, it's pretty basic.
Well, that's what we are attempting to do right now with the commission, but it's going to take a change in the county ordinance to allow us to be that outside party. The commission is not associated with the LA County Sheriff's Department. Everyone on the commission, we are commissioners appointed by supervisors and or the community, and that is that's the basic way complaints are looked at. I understand your concern. It's a very valid concern, But right now in the state of California, that is how almost all law enforcement agencies, they all adjudicate complaints against them, members of their own department within their own department. And I understand your concern.
So we're
Thank
saying
you,
that internal
Alex.
affairs, I was thinking, we're saying that internal affairs to the Los Angeles Police Department, internal affairs is not an agency that is a similar agency than your commissioner.
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. Internal affairs of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department is part of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. The commission is not, and we're attempting to get the county ordinance changed so that we would have the ability to provide that level of oversight you are suggesting, so an independent party could look at their investigations and say, yes, that was adequate, or no, it was not, and maybe you need to go back and look at it again. So that's what we're working toward.
I appreciate that. And then so what I'm saying is, I'm trying to switch it over to just compare, because you said other agencies. Let's just say Los Angeles Police Department, they have an agency internal, and also what would you compare? Would you compare the Oversight Committee to the sheriffs, to the internal affairs of the Los Angeles Police Department, or would you?
No, I would not. No, the Oversight Commission would be more like the Los Angeles Police Commission. It'd be similar. They're not identical. They operate under different rules. But no, the Internal Affairs Bureau is part of the Sheriff's Department, and LAPD's Internal Affairs is part of the Los Angeles Police Department. The commission is separate from the LA County Sheriff's Department. The commission is putting on this particular webinar, and the LA Police Department, their police commission is also independent of the police department.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go ahead.
Thank you very much.
Questions that are related to the complaint process. We now have Cindy Nunez. Cindy, you are unmuted. Cindy, you are unmuted.
Hello?
Cindy? Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, so I'm Cindy. I'm the sister of Francisco Nunez, also a county employee, working very close with LASD out here in Lancaster. I submitted 3 formal complaints since March 2024, specifically for the Lancaster Station deputies, for harassment, surveillance on me, my children, taking pictures of me, my children, retaliation against me after filing the complaints. Please keep in mind that when I filed the complaint process, it does ask for your address and other information unless you want to become anonymous. Me, I'm not lying about the situation. I wanted to get resolved, so I provided all my information. Since I filed those complaints, that's when the harassment began at my house, at my home. The death notification was given actually at Francisco's house, not mine. So LASD had no knowledge of my home address until I submitted those complaints. Instead of transparency, accountability, I received barely any follow-up. The runaround, I went through the sergeants, I went through the lieutenants, I went through Captain Bartlett, I went through the Office of Inspector General. They refer back to LASD Lancaster. I was assigned a lieutenant, never heard from him again. I submitted the videos, the evidence, what you guys call it. These deputies clearly are never held accountable for their misconduct. As county employees, it's against policy to harass other coworkers, especially when you're on county time. So not only am I in my impacted family, but I'm also a county employee, and I have deputies in front of my home surveillance me, harassing me, following me, all these stuff while on county time. So to me, that is very, very severe. I've submitted this. I've had lieutenants from OSS specifically stated to me he would use my social media against me in his decision making on the outcome of my complaint. This isn't allowed according to our policy. So why are lieutenants taking retaliation into their own hands? That isn't protocol in the county. That's intimidation. That's abuse of power and authority to protect their own buddies. Why is it like I'm being disciplined for speaking out as a county employee instead of the deputies. What measures are being taken towards these deputies? Because Captain Bartlett does not find them accountable for anything. They continue this, and if we're so understaffed and all that stuff, why are they wasting time surveillancing me like I'm some kind of criminal? These are my own coworkers doing this to me, and to not be held accountable or not receive any kind of feedback. And aside from me being a county employee, that does not give me any privilege or anything like that. I still went about policy and procedure. As I remind you, I'm very well informed and educated on policy and procedure within LASD in Lancaster. I follow it every day at work. So even as a civilian, it has failed me. Instead
Thank
of
you, Ms. Lewis. Do you have a
it's failed
question
me.
that you would like the panelists to be able to answer for you, something specific you could ask them?
So in all that, I mean, even if you go through the Inspector General, they refer back to Lancaster Station. It's been over 365 days. So where does that leave me? If you follow all policy and procedure, you go through everyone you're supposed to, and they're still doing it, nothing's being done. What do you do then? You just deal with it? What can I do?
Well, I'm going to attempt to answer that the best way I can as a commissioner. I don't know that anybody on this panel is going to be able to answer your question. You have expressed some extreme concerns, and the commission has heard you. I think the commission is going to have to take a good hard look at your situation, because our only redress, frankly, is the Office of Inspector General. And if the Office of Inspector General has not adequately handled your situation, then I guess the only possible option for the commission to do is look outside the county family to see if we can get some resolution. I hear you. I hear you at all the meetings. We understand your concern, but I don't know that anybody on this panel can offer any particular direction. But if I'm wrong, please speak up and address the issue. Lieutenant Aguirre.
Sir, actually, I wanted to make a comment regarding.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now, sir? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, the comment's not about this particular issue, but
Well, the man who has the answer can't seem to get his volume going, so I don't know what we're going to do here.
I could hear him.
Can you hear me, Commissioner Harris?
Commissioner Harris, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, for the sake of time, if you could please go ahead and give your response.
Well, my response is not to
Well,
this comment specifically, but actually to Mr. Calloway's comment about oversight. I want the panel to understand that we do have another avenue for complaint process, which is the peace officers standards and training. So everything that goes to all complaints that come to the department get reported to post, and post conducts independent reviews as well of the complaint process. This was specific for Mr. Calloway because another concerns about oversight of the investigations. I hope this answers that question. I don't know how many people actually heard me at this point.
Thank you, Lieutenant. I heard you.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard you as well.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Tracy, can we go on to the next question then?
Thank you. We're now going to move on. We have another anonymous caller. Anonymous caller number 3. You have now been unmuted.
Have we lost everything here?
Oh, well, here. Okay, my question is real quick. If can we go through one of the complaints, please, and see how those complaints is run down the process, and let's go ahead and cross-reference it to the codes and the rules of how one might violate or not violate. We take one, not harassment, something that was actually adjudicated, actually had disciplined on it. So there was an actual discipline. Could you have a review of a complaint to show us how you disciplined that officer in the last year, and show us how you went down that complaint process and the investigation process, please?
Well, anonymous 3, we are currently at about 7:48, 7:49. So at this
Okay, thank you.
point, if you have a question, our panelists might be able to answer a question as opposed to take the time to do that. We would love to try and do that for you. That might be something they can do at a later time, but please ask a
We can do it right
question.
now. We can do it right now. It's okay. We got it. We can do it. It's okay. As you mentioned, you're here to let us ask questions, and you would answer the question.
Okay, then Tracy, do we have another question that we can answer?
What's your question?
That was my question, sir. My question is, can we run down a complaint and show us how you do a complaint, how you adjudicate or how you investigate the complaint from the moment it was put in and written down to the moment you make a disciplinary action?
Well, I
against
think
it?
have you been on this entire call?
I have, yes, but I have not
Well,
heard you
I believe
give us a clear example.
Captain Ash explained how we do conduct these
No, not
reviews.
an actual. No. An actual example. You take certain A, B, and you show us how it went to be a disciplinary action.
Commissioner Harris.
Yes, Commissioner Callaway.
I think the answer to his question is no. We cannot go through a
Yes, and I think
complaint from
you're
the
absolutely correct. We cannot do that now.
Thank you. Okay, we're now going to go on to our next question. We have a caller, Ernest Moore. You have been unmuted. Ernest Moore, you're unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
What I've heard so far is rather disturbing. I'd like to remind the sheriff's deputies present there that you do not get paid with our tax dollars to protect any kind of criminal misconduct by other sheriff deputies or other criminals where you are working. Now, as some of the anonymous callers have basically testified to, I have been filing complaints against sheriff deputies for years. Most recently, and the most complaints I've filed have involved the sheriff deputies in the Stanley Moss Courthouse, who will not take a crime report when I'm reporting felony crimes by individuals in that courtroom involved in my cases. And specifically now, last year was the last time where I tried to do a citizen's arrest in the courtroom, and sheriff deputies, the judge ran out, got about 5, 6, 7, 8 sheriff's deputies came back, refused my citizen's arrest, and would not even take a police report. I filed a complaint to the sheriff's department. They haven't even answered it yet. I filed a complaint to the Inspector General's office. He hasn't responded to it yet. And in fact, one of the deputies said, well, we don't take complaints. I mean, we don't take police reports here. If you want to do a police report, then go to LAPD, which I did. And actually, LAPD has filed criminal charges against this individual that I was trying to arrest in that court case at that time. Now, I would rather form a specialized citizens law enforcement agency to police the police or do internal affairs. This is not what we pay taxes for. And in fact, I want to arrest, I'm going to try to get a restraining order against sheriff deputies so that I can do these citizens arrests in that courthouse and then call in LAPD to take these individuals into custody.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your comment.
Mr. Moore, do you have a question? Okay, we're going to take our last question from Lou Walker. Lou Walker, you have been unmuted.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Hi, Lou Walker, Antelope Valley. Ernest Moore, please reach out to me with the National Action Network and a few other organizations. One thing I've been doing for the past few years is just documenting everything that could be used in court past the county level, even past the state level. There are so many people who are going to these police stations, these sheriff stations, and they cannot get a report filed. They don't get responses. They are not allowed to even have any responses, even after speaking to watch commanders. So this whole listening session, or whatever you want to call it, is challenging. It's cumbersome. And another challenge that we have that I've experienced, not just with law enforcement, but with these county commissions, I have had people with PhDs, qualified individuals with federal experience, not being selected for these commission positions. And then you get commissioners that state, like Mr. J.P. Harris had said earlier, he wasn't sure if anyone on the panel could answer or offer any directions on the checks and balances that one of the anonymous community members brought up. Why is county agencies basically investigating itself, and everything's just moving in this circular direction? What I would like to ask from all of you here, if you're qualified to even answer this, what do you offer community members who have gone through these shoulda, coulda, wouldas? You did say a lot of what the stations should be doing. So when those aren't met, when those qualifications aren't met, and clearly the stations are denying people the right to complain, denying even receipts, which is another state violation when people turn in documentation. Where is any kind of accountability? Aside from the internal affairs within the county, you have what Mr. Raymond Jones, maybe you can answer this. Who do you report to? Who audits these commissions? Who audits your Department of Internal Affairs? Who is doing these audits? That's what I'd like to know.
Now, if you're asking regarding when we do the investigations, once we do the thorough investigation, we do have random audits that's gone through outside department entities. So there are some audits regarding some of these investigations. Once again, these investigations are, once again, they are confidential because they're Peace Officer Bill of Rights, but there are some audits that are being done on our investigations.
Okay, Commissioner Harris, that's all the time that we have for questions. If we're not able to get to all the questions, please feel free to send your questions to us via email at clcnotify@clc.lacounty.gov. I turn it back over to you, Commissioner Harris.
Well, I'd like to thank all the panelists here tonight. I know some of these questions are challenging. I know some of the situations that people have presented, they're very frustrated, and we can certainly understand their frustration. Some of us share those frustrations from time to time. All we can do is attempt to do better in the future. And I know that the men and women of the Sheriff's Department try to do the right thing. Even when they fall short, we try and find out how to maintain accountability. So we appreciate everyone calling tonight and giving their input. I again want to thank all the members of the panel. And I know it's a challenge for all the things that we've talked about tonight. We do ask those that attended tonight if they would fill out the survey for the QR code that is available. Our next commission meeting is going to be this Thursday, not this Thursday, but Thursday, May 15th. At a location still to be determined at 9 a.m. And we hope you'll join us there. But again, we refer you to the QR code to submit your comments regarding this particular webinar. And with that, I'll thank everyone for their time this evening, and that concludes our conference.
One more reminder, there will be a public safety cluster meeting next week. That is going to be on April 30th at 9:30. We will have representatives from the Sheriff Civilian Oversight Commission that will be making a presentation at that meeting. So please feel free to, if you can attend that virtually, if you're not able to make it in person, that meeting will be downtown at the Hall of Administration. The information is available for that on the CEO's website under their agendas at ceo.lacounty.gov/agendas under the public meeting agendas. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. And again, thank everyone for attending tonight. That does conclude our conference.
Thank you.
Thank you.